The eviction notice was taped to apartment 3C, the same apartment where Daniel Carver's wife and daughter had burned to death 8 years ago. Daniel sat in his Mercedes across the street, engine running, staring at that piece of paper fluttering in the December wind. White paper, red letters, final notice. He'd been the one to authorize it. He'd signed off on the demolition scheduled for the day after Christmas, but he hadn't known anyone was still living inside until this morning. And he certainly hadn't known they were living in that apartment. The building looked tired now. Brick facade crumbling in places, windows fogged and cracked, fire escape rusted orange. The city had condemned it 2 years ago. He'd bought it back from the insurance settlement 6 months ago. Tomorrow the demolition crew would arrive. His project manager had called an hour ago. One tenant refused to leave. Still inside. Papers served. Deadline passed. But she wouldn't go. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. The leather was warm under his palms, but his hands were shaking. He'd avoided this building for 8 years. Crossed the street when he drove past it. Took different routes home, anything to not see those windows on the 3rd floor. Now he had to go inside, had to stand in front of that door, had to evict someone from the place where everything had ended. Daniel killed the engine and stepped out into the cold. December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. The air smelled like exhaust and old snow. His breath came out in white clouds as he crossed the street, expensive shoes crunching over rock salt scattered across the sidewalk. The building's front door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, the lobby was dark, wallpaper peeling, the scent of mildew and old radiator heat thick in the air. Someone had tried to string up Christmas lights, but half of them were burned out, blinking weakly in the dimness. The stairs creaked as he climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last. By the 2nd floor, his chest had tightened. By the 3rd floor landing, he'd stopped breathing normally. Apartment 3C, the brass numbers were tarnished, but still visible. The eviction notice fluttered slightly in a draft coming from somewhere. Daniel stared at it, at the door, at the paint that had been redone at least twice since the fire, covering the scorch marks, the smoke damage, the evidence of what he'd done. $3,000. That's what he'd saved by using substandard wiring. $3,000 that had seemed so important at the time. $3,000 for 2 lives. His daughter had been 6 years old. She'd wanted to be a firefighter when she grew up. The irony had nearly killed him. Daniel raised his hand to knock, then paused. Lauren had stood on the other side of this door 8 years ago, calling for help, trying to reach Mia's bedroom while smoke filled her lungs. The firefighters said she'd almost made it. Almost. Almost doesn't save anyone. Daniel forced himself to knock. 3 sharp raps. Silence, then footsteps. Light, cautious. The door opened just a crack, held by a chain lock. A woman's face appeared in the gap. She was younger than he expected, maybe late 20s, with dark auburn hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Her eyes were sharp, guarded, green like river moss. She wore a faded sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, and her hands were dusted with what looked like packing tape residue. "I already told the city I need more time," she said, voice firm but edged with exhaustion. Daniel cleared his throat. "I'm not from the city. I'm Daniel Carver. I own the building." Her expression hardened. "So you're the one tearing it down?" "Yes. On Christmas Eve." "The demolition is scheduled for the 26th, he said carefully. "But you need to be out by tomorrow." She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at him with an intensity that felt like accusation. "I have a son," she said quietly. "He's 6. I'm looking for a place, but everything's—" She stopped herself, jaw tightening. "I just need a few more days." Daniel felt something twist in his chest. 6 years old, the same age Mia had been. "I understand," he said, though his voice came out flat. "But the building isn't safe. The wiring, the structure, it's condemned for a reason." "We've been fine." "You've been lucky." Her eyes flashed. "Lucky?" She let out a bitter laugh. You think I'm here because I'm lucky? Daniel didn't respond. He didn't know what to say. From somewhere behind her, a small voice called out, "Mommy, is that the demolition man?" The woman, he realized he didn't even know her name, glanced back, then turned to him again. "Please," she said, and for the first time, her voice cracked. "Just a few more days. I'll find something. I promise." Daniel looked past her, into the dim apartment. He could see boxes stacked against the wall. A small Christmas tree, artificial and crooked, sat in the corner. No lights, just a few handmade ornaments hanging from the branches. And then he saw the boy, standing in the doorway to what must have been the bedroom, holding a toy fire truck, red plastic, worn from use. The boy's hair was dark, messy, his eyes wide and curious. He wore mismatched socks and a sweater 2 sizes too big. Daniel's vision blurred for a second. Mia had loved fire trucks, had begged for one every birthday. She'd wanted to be a firefighter when she grew up, wanted to save people. The boy stepped forward, clutching the truck to his chest. "Are you gonna knock down our house?" he asked. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. His voice broke. He cleared his throat. "I have to." The boy nodded solemnly, like he understood. Then he looked down at his fire truck and said, so softly it barely carried, "I wanted to save people like the firemen tried to save us." Daniel's knees nearly gave out. The woman, still nameless, turned quickly. "Ethan, go back inside, sweetheart." But Daniel couldn't look away. The boy, this boy, in this apartment. On Christmas. He took a shaky breath and forced himself to speak. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, then answered, Vanessa Holt." "How long have you lived here?" 2 years. "And before that?" She looked confused. "Why does that matter?" "Just," Daniel exhaled. "Please." Vanessa's shoulders sagged slightly. "We were in a shelter. Before that, my car. Before that." She trailed off, then met his eyes. "Does it matter where we were? We're here now, and tomorrow we'll be nowhere." Daniel stared at her, then at Ethan, then at the apartment behind them. This place had taken everything from him, every single thing that mattered, and now it was about to take everything from them, too. "Let me in," he said. Vanessa blinked. "What?" "Let me see the apartment." "Why?" "Because," Daniel said, voice rough. "I need to see it." Vanessa studied him for a long moment, suspicion and desperation fighting in her expression. Finally, she unhooked the chain and stepped back. Daniel walked inside, and the past came crashing into him like a wave. The apartment was smaller than Daniel remembered, or maybe grief had made it larger in his mind, stretched the rooms into cathedrals of loss. But standing here now, he could see the truth. It was just a place. 4 walls, scuffed floors, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. But it was also the last place his family had been alive. Vanessa stood near the door, arms crossed, watching him carefully. Ethan had retreated to the couch, fire truck in his lap, eyes following Daniel's every movement. Daniel walked slowly through the space, his shoes echoing on the old hardwood. The layout was the same: living room to the left, kitchen straight ahead, hallway to the right leading to the bedroom and bathroom. He stopped at the kitchen threshold. This was where they'd found Lauren. Smoke inhalation. She'd been trying to reach Mia's room. His hand gripped the doorframe. The wood was cold under his palm. "Are you okay?" Vanessa's voice cut through the fog. Daniel didn't answer. He moved down the hallway, stopped at the second door, the bedroom. Vanessa had converted it into Ethan's room. There was a small bed against the far wall, covered in a patchwork quilt, drawings taped to the walls, crayons scattered on the floor, and in the corner, near the window, a burn mark on the ceiling. They'd never fully repaired it, just painted over it. But you could still see the shadow if you looked closely. This was where Mia had been, trapped behind a door that wouldn't open because the heat had warped the frame. The firefighters had pulled her out, but she was already gone. Daniel's vision swam. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. "Mr. Carver." Vanessa stepped closer, concern replacing suspicion. "Do you need to sit down?" He shook his head, but his legs betrayed him. He sank onto the edge of Ethan's bed, head in his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Vanessa knelt in front of him, uncertain. For what? For this. For all of it. His voice cracked. "My wife and daughter died here. 8 years ago. Christmas Eve. There was a fire. He stopped, swallowed. "I owned this building back then, too. I cut corners. The wiring wasn't up to code. I knew, and I did it anyway because I wanted to save money, and they—" He couldn't finish. Vanessa's eyes widened. Her hand moved instinctively to her mouth. From the living room, Ethan called out, "Mommy, is he sad?" Vanessa turned, voice steady, despite the shock on her face. "Yes, baby. He's sad. Can I give him my truck? It helps when I'm sad." Daniel looked up. The boy was standing now, holding out the red fire truck, expression earnest and open in the way only children can be. Vanessa started to protest, but Daniel stood. He walked over and knelt in front of Ethan. "You don't have to give me your truck," Daniel said gently. "But you're sad like me," Ethan said. "When I'm sad, I hold it and pretend the firemen save everybody, even the people they couldn't save last time." Daniel's throat closed. He took the truck with trembling hands. "Thank you," he managed. Ethan nodded seriously. Then, without hesitation, he wrapped his small arms around Daniel's neck. Daniel froze. The boy's weight against him was so light, so warm. He smelled like cheap shampoo and peanut butter. And for a moment, just a moment, Daniel let himself hold on. When Ethan pulled back, he looked up at Daniel with those wide, trusting eyes and said, "Don't cry, Mr. Demolition Man. It's almost Christmas. Santa might come." Daniel couldn't speak, he just nodded. Vanessa gently pulled Ethan back. "Go play in your room for a minute, okay?" Ethan obeyed, skipping down the hallway, humming a tune Daniel didn't recognize. Vanessa turned back to Daniel. Her expression had shifted, softer now, but still wary. "I'm sorry about your family," she said quietly. "I can't imagine—" "Don't," Daniel interrupted. "Don't apologize. I don't deserve it. You were trying to build something. You made a mistake. That doesn't make you— It makes me responsible." His voice was hard, final. "I killed them. Maybe not with my hands, but with my choices. And I've spent 8 years trying to erase this place because I can't stand to remember." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "And now you're erasing us, too." Daniel looked at her, really looked, her auburn hair catching the weak winter light from the window, the exhaustion in her eyes, the set of her jaw that said she'd been fighting for so long she didn't know how to stop. "I don't want to," he said. "Then don't. The building is condemned. I can't just—" "You own it," Vanessa said, stepping closer. "You can do whatever you want. It's not safe. Neither is the street. Neither is the shelter. Neither is my car." Her voice rose slightly. "At least here, Ethan has a bed. At least here, he thinks Santa might come." Daniel shook his head. "I can't let you stay here. If something happened—" "Something's already happening," Vanessa said, voice breaking. "We're being erased, just like your family. You get to bulldoze this place and move on, but where do we go?" Daniel had no answer. Vanessa wiped her eyes quickly, angry at herself for crying. "I'm sorry. That wasn't fair." "No," Daniel said. "It was." They stood there in the dim apartment. Two strangers bound by the same 4 walls, the same desperation, the same ghosts. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Come with me." Vanessa blinked. "What?" "Tonight. Both of you. Come stay somewhere warm, somewhere safe, just for Christmas. Then we'll figure out the rest. I don't need charity. This isn't charity. Daniel's voice was firm. This is me trying to do one thing right. Vanessa studied him, searching for a lie, a trap, anything that would let her refuse. But all she saw was a broken man offering the only thing he had left. Okay, she whispered. Just for Christmas. Daniel's house sat on the edge of the city, tucked behind iron gates and tall hedges that blocked the world from view. The driveway curved through bare trees, their branches skeletal against the gray December sky. Snow had started falling again, light flakes that melted on the windshield before the wipers could catch them. Vanessa sat in the passenger seat of Daniel's Mercedes, hands folded tightly in her lap. She'd barely spoken since they'd left the apartment. Just watched the city pass through the window, jaw set, shoulders tense. In the back seat, Ethan pressed his nose against the glass, breath fogging the window as he traced shapes with his finger. It's like a castle, Ethan whispered. Vanessa turned to look. The house rose before them, 3 stories of stone and glass, elegant but cold. Lights glowed in a few windows, but they looked automated, lifeless. No wreaths, no decorations, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. Daniel pulled into the garage and killed the engine. The silence was immediate, heavy. You live here alone? Vanessa asked quietly. Daniel nodded. For 8 years. She looked at him, something like understanding crossing her face. That's a lot of space for one person. Yes, he said, it is. Inside, the house smelled faintly of cleaning products and something else Vanessa couldn't name. Emptiness, maybe. Daniel flipped on lights as they moved through the entryway. Hardwood floors gleamed. White walls stretched upward. Everything was immaculate, perfect, untouched. Ethan's footsteps echoed as he wandered ahead, eyes wide. Mommy, there's a staircase like in the movies. Vanessa caught his hand gently. Don't touch anything, baby. Daniel turned. He can touch whatever he wants. It's just a house. It's your house, Vanessa corrected. We're guests. You're not guests, Daniel's voice was firm. You're... He stopped, unsure how to finish. What were they? Refugees? Charity cases? Ghosts he was trying to save? He cleared his throat. The guest rooms are upstairs, 2nd floor. Pick whichever one you'd like. Vanessa hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. Daniel watched them climb the stairs, Ethan's small hand gripping the banister, his fire truck tucked under one arm. When they disappeared around the corner, Daniel stood alone in the massive entryway, surrounded by silence. What are you doing? He asked himself. He didn't have an answer. 20 minutes later, Daniel found himself in the kitchen, staring at the contents of his refrigerator. Eggs, cheese, bread, the basics. He hadn't cooked a real meal in years, hadn't needed to. But now there was a 6-year-old boy upstairs and a mother who probably hadn't eaten anything substantial in days. He pulled out ingredients, moving mechanically. Scrambled eggs, toast, simple, safe, footsteps on the stairs. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, hair down now, wet from a shower. She'd changed into clean clothes, jeans and a sweater that looked too big for her. She must have brought a bag from the apartment. Ethan fell asleep, she said softly. He was exhausted. Daniel nodded. There's food, if you're hungry. Vanessa stepped into the kitchen, eyes scanning the pristine counters, the high-end appliances, the breakfast nook with its view of the snow-covered yard. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. She pulled out a chair and sat, watching him work. For a while, neither spoke. Just the sound of eggs sizzling in the pan, bread popping in the toaster, the hum of the refrigerator. Finally, Vanessa broke the silence. Why are you really doing this? Daniel kept his eyes on the stove. I told you. No, she interrupted gently. The real reason, not the polite one. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned off the burner, plated the eggs, and brought them to the table. He sat across from her, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he didn't remember pouring. Because, he said slowly, when I saw Ethan in that apartment, holding that fire truck, I saw my daughter. And when you asked for more time, I heard my wife, and I thought, his voice caught. I thought maybe if I could save you, it would mean something. That all of this, he gestured vaguely at the house, the life he'd built around his guilt, would mean something. Vanessa's eyes were wet. You can't save us to save them. I know, they're gone. I know that too. Daniel looked at her, really looked. But you're here, and Ethan's here, and tomorrow's Christmas Eve and you have nowhere to go. So maybe I can't save them, but I can do this. Vanessa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. She picked up her fork, took a bite of eggs, and closed her eyes. God, when was the last time I had a hot meal? She whispered to herself. Daniel watched her eat, something shifting in his chest, something he hadn't felt in 8 years. Not quite hope, not quite peace, but close. Morning came soft and gray. Snow had fallen through the night, blanketing the yard in white, muffling the world outside. Daniel woke early, habit more than intention. He'd barely slept. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of people in his house, footsteps, whispers, life. He found Ethan in the hallway, peering into a half-open door. What are you looking at? Daniel asked gently. Ethan jumped, then grinned. There's a room full of boxes. Are they presents? Daniel's stomach tightened. The storage room. He hadn't opened it in years. No, he said carefully. Just old things. Can I see? Ethan. Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs, hair messy, eyes still heavy with sleep. I'm sorry. He woke up and wandered off. It's okay, Daniel said. Then, almost against his will, he added, he can look. Vanessa's eyes widened slightly, questioning, but Daniel just pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The room was exactly as he'd left it, boxes stacked against the walls, furniture covered in white sheets, and in the corner, wrapped in plastic, an artificial Christmas tree. Ethan gasped, You have a tree. Daniel nodded slowly. My daughter and I used to decorate it, every year. Can we decorate it now? Ethan asked, voice bright with hope. Ethan, Vanessa warned, that's not ours to... Yes, Daniel interrupted. We can. Vanessa stared at him. Are you sure? No, Daniel thought, but he said, It's been sitting here long enough. An hour later, the living room was transformed. The tree stood crooked in the corner, its branches slightly bent from years of storage. But to Ethan, it was perfect. He sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully unwrapping ornaments from tissue paper, examining each one like treasure. Vanessa knelt beside him, helping untangle strings of lights. She glanced at Daniel, who stood near the window, watching. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. I know. Ethan held up an ornament, a small wooden reindeer with a child's handwriting on the back. Mia, age 7. Daniel's breath caught. Ethan looked up. Was that your daughter? Yes. She had pretty handwriting. She did. Ethan studied the ornament, then stood and walked to Daniel. Do you want to hang it? Daniel took the ornament with trembling hands. He stared at Mia's name, her crooked letters, the glitter she'd insisted on adding even though it got everywhere. I'll help you, Ethan said, grabbing Daniel's hand and pulling him toward the tree. Together, they hung the reindeer on the highest branch they could reach. Ethan stepped back, admiring it. That's the most important one, he declared. Daniel couldn't speak. He just nodded. They continued decorating in comfortable silence. Vanessa found an old music box in one of the boxes and wound it carefully. Soft notes filled the room, a familiar melody. Silent Night. Ethan began to hum along. Then, without prompting, he started to sing. Silent night, holy night. His voice was small, clear, pure. All is calm. All is bright. Daniel's vision blurred. He turned away, facing the window, shoulders shaking. This song, Mia's favorite, she'd sung it that last Christmas Eve, on the phone, asking when he'd be home. He'd told her soon. He'd lied. Tears spilled freely now. He didn't bother hiding them. Vanessa saw him, set down the ornaments, and stood. She didn't speak, just moved beside him, close but not touching, offering silent presence. When the song ended, Ethan turned. Mr. Daniel, why are you crying? Daniel wiped his eyes, voice rough. Because that was my daughter's favorite song. Ethan nodded solemnly. Then he walked over and hugged Daniel's leg. It's okay to miss people, he said. Mommy says missing people means you love them lots. Daniel knelt down, pulled the boy into a proper embrace, and let himself cry. The kitchen smelled like coffee and burnt toast. Vanessa stood at the sink, sleeves rolled up, washing dishes from breakfast. Daniel had insisted she didn't have to, but she'd ignored him, moving with practiced efficiency. He grabbed a towel and stepped beside her. I can help. She glanced at him, surprised. You don't have to. I want to. They worked in comfortable rhythm, passing plates, drying, stacking, the intimacy of the mundane. Ethan seems happy here, Daniel said carefully. Vanessa nodded. He's a resilient kid, too resilient sometimes. He shouldn't have to be. You've done an incredible job with him. She laughed bitterly. Have I? I can't keep a roof over his head, can't afford Christmas presents, can't even promise him we'll have a place to sleep next week. Daniel set down the towel. What if you didn't have to worry about that? Vanessa turned, confused. What do you mean? He hesitated, then said, I have a foundation. It's small, focuses on housing initiatives, family support. I could... He paused, choosing words carefully. I could help, not just with a place to stay, with everything, school, stability, a real future. Vanessa stared at him. Why would you do that? Because you deserve it. Because Ethan deserves it. You don't even know us. I know enough. Daniel's voice was steady. I know you haven't given up. I know you get up every day and fight for him. That kind of strength... He stopped, swallowing hard. That's rare, and it shouldn't be punished. Vanessa's eyes filled. This feels like charity. It's not, it's recognition. He met her gaze. And maybe it's me trying to do something right for once. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, I don't want to take advantage. You're not, I'm offering. Why? Because, Daniel said, voice breaking slightly. I spent 8 years believing I deserved to be alone. That happiness was something other people got to have. And then a 6-year-old boy showed up in my dead daughter's apartment, holding a fire truck, and reminded me that some things are worth saving. Vanessa exhaled slowly, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to say. Say yes. She nodded. Once. Then again. Okay. Yes. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the snow. Daniel had been quiet all morning, distant. Finally, he'd asked Vanessa and Ethan if they'd come somewhere with him. They drove in silence to a cemetery on the edge of the city. Headstones poked through the snow like broken teeth. Daniel parked near a section of newer graves, stones still dark and unweathered. You don't have to come, he said quietly. But Vanessa opened her door. We're here. We'll come. They walked slowly through the snow. Ethan held his mother's hand, unusually quiet. Daniel stopped at 2 matching headstones. Lauren Carver, beloved wife and mother, Mia Carver, forever our little light. Daniel knelt, brushing snow from the stones with his bare hands. His fingers were red from the cold, but he didn't stop. "I'm sorry I haven't come in a while," he said softly. "I kept telling myself I would, that I'd bring flowers, that I'd say the right things. But I never did." Vanessa stood back, giving him space. Ethan watched, confused but respectful. Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it carefully. A child's drawing, laminated to protect it from the elements. Mia had drawn it years ago. A family of 3 holding hands under a Christmas tree. He placed it gently at the base of Mia's headstone. "I met someone," he whispered. 2 people, actually. A woman and her son. They were living in our old apartment, the one where," his voice broke, "I wanted to hate that place, to erase it, but they needed it, and somehow, helping them feels like honoring you." Tears fell freely now, freezing on his cheeks. "I don't know if this is okay. If I'm allowed to move forward. But I can't stay frozen anymore." He touched Lauren's stone. "You wouldn't want that. I know you wouldn't." Ethan suddenly pulled away from Vanessa and walked forward. He stood beside Daniel, looking down at the graves. "Are these your people?" he asked. "Yes." Ethan nodded. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. His own drawing, a fire truck with flames in the background and tiny stick figures labeled "The People Who Got Saved." "Can I leave this for her?" he asked. "So she knows people still remember?" Daniel's throat closed. He nodded. Ethan placed the drawing next to Mia's, arranging it carefully so it wouldn't blow away. Then he stepped back and took Daniel's hand. "I think they're happy you're not alone anymore," Ethan said. Daniel looked down at the boy, this small stranger who'd somehow become essential in the span of 2 days, and whispered, "Thank you." The community center sat on the poor side of town, sandwiched between a laundromat and a boarded-up grocery store. Lights glowed in the windows, and the sound of laughter spilled into the cold night air. Daniel had funded this place through his foundation, but had never actually visited. Tonight felt different. Vanessa walked beside him, Ethan between them, holding both their hands. She'd insisted on coming when Daniel mentioned the Christmas Eve dinner the center was hosting for families without homes. Inside, the space was warm and crowded. Mismatched tables filled the room, covered in donated tablecloths and paper decorations. Children ran between chairs, their laughter echoing off the walls. Elderly folks sat near a small artificial tree, sharing stories. Mothers cradled babies, fathers helped serve food from steaming trays. Ethan's eyes went wide. "Is this a party?" "Yes," Daniel said, "for everyone." An older woman approached, her face lighting up. "Mr. Carver, we didn't expect you tonight." "I wanted to see it," he said. "Really see it." She smiled warmly, then noticed Vanessa and Ethan. "And who are these lovely people?" "This is Vanessa and her son, Ethan," Daniel said. "They're—" He paused, unsure how to explain. "They're with me." The woman didn't press, just gestured toward an empty table near the tree. "Please sit. Eat. There's plenty." They settled in, plates piled with turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans. Ethan devoured his food, occasionally pausing to watch the other children play. Vanessa ate more slowly, eyes scanning the room, taking in the faces of people who looked just like her. Tired, worn, but trying. "I could have been here," she said quietly. "If you hadn't—" She stopped. "But you're not," Daniel said. "You're here, with me." She looked at him, something unspoken passing between them. After dinner, the center director asked Daniel if he'd say a few words. He hesitated, then stood, moving to the front of the room. All eyes turned toward him. "I'm not good at speeches," he began. "I'm better with numbers, with buildings, with things that don't require me to feel. A few people chuckled softly, but 8 years ago, I lost my family, and I spent every day after that trying to erase the pain by erasing the memories. I tore down buildings, closed off parts of my life, convinced myself that being alone was what I deserved. He paused, glancing at Vanessa and Ethan. 2 days ago, I met a woman and her son who were about to lose their home. The same home where my family died. I was there to demolish it, to erase it. But something made me stop, made me listen, made me remember that we're all just people trying to survive, trying to find meaning in the wreckage. His voice grew stronger. I can't bring my family back. I can't undo my mistakes. But I can choose what comes next. And I'm choosing to believe that second chances aren't just for some of us. They're for all of us. Applause rose gently. Daniel returned to the table, face flushed, hands shaking. Vanessa reached across and squeezed his hand. That was beautiful. It was true, he said. Later, as families gathered around the tree to sing carols, the music swelled. Voices blending, imperfect, but warm. Vanessa stood beside Daniel, watching Ethan sing with the other children, his face bright with joy. Daniel turned to her, voice low. I need to tell you something. She looked at him, concerned. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's... He stopped, searching for words. I rebuilt the building. Vanessa blinked. What? The apartment. Your apartment. I couldn't demolish it, so I rebuilt it instead. New wiring, new structure, everything safe. It's going to be affordable housing. For families like... He paused. For families like yours. Her eyes widened. Daniel! I named it Mia's place, he continued, words coming faster now. After my daughter, and I want you to manage it. Not as charity, as a job, a real job. You'd oversee tenant relations, community programs. You're studying psychology. This would be perfect. Vanessa's hand covered her mouth. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, Daniel said quietly. Say you'll let me be part of your life. Not because you need me, because you want me there. She stared at him, tears streaming. You're asking me to stay in the apartment where your family died? I'm asking you to help me turn the worst place in my life into something good, to prove that places don't have to stay broken, that people don't either. Vanessa exhaled shakily. That's a lot to ask. I know. And what about us? She whispered. What are we doing here, Daniel? You're offering me a job, a home, a future. But what is this? Daniel pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside sat a simple silver ring. Vanessa's breath caught. I don't know if this is right, Daniel said, voice trembling. I don't know if I'm allowed to feel this way so fast, if it's appropriate, if you even see me as anything more than someone who helped when you had no choice. He met her eyes. But I know that when I'm with you and Ethan, I don't feel like I'm replacing what I lost. I feel like I'm building something new, something that honors them by being alive instead of frozen. Daniel, she whispered, it's been 2 days. I know. People will say I'm only doing this because I need you, because I have nowhere else to go. I know that too. They'll say you're taking advantage, that this is wrong. Probably. He didn't look away. But I'm asking anyway. Not for an answer tonight. Just... His voice cracked. Just don't disappear. Stay. Let's see what this becomes. Vanessa stared at the ring. At Daniel. At Ethan, singing across the room. I'm terrified, she whispered. So am I. She looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, she held out her hand. Daniel's hands shook as he slipped the ring on her finger. I'm not saying yes to marriage, Vanessa said quietly. Not yet. But I'm saying yes to trying, to staying, to seeing if this is real or if we're both just broken people holding on to the first thing that feels safe. That's enough, Daniel whispered. From across the room, Ethan suddenly shouted, "Mommy, Mr. Daniel, come sing with us." They walked over together, Vanessa's hand in Daniel's, the ring cold and unfamiliar on her finger. The group sang "Silent Night" as snow fell outside the windows. Ethan looked up at them, grinning. "Are we a family now?" Daniel glanced at Vanessa. She didn't answer immediately, just squeezed his hand tighter. "We're trying to be," she said finally. Ethan nodded, satisfied. Then he pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, a drawing he'd made that afternoon, 3 stick figures standing in front of a building, above them, written in crayon, "People who got saved and people who saved them back." He walked to the community center's bulletin board and pinned it up carefully. Daniel stared at it, throat tight. Vanessa leaned against his shoulder, and for the first time in 8 years, he let himself imagine a future that wasn't just survival. Outside, the city glowed with Christmas lights, snow continued to fall, and inside the warm center, surrounded by strangers who'd become witnesses, Daniel and Vanessa stood together, holding on to something fragile and uncertain, and possibly wrong. But it was theirs, and it was enough. Thank you for watching this story of loss, guilt, and the complicated ethics of second chances. If this made you uncomfortable, if it made you question what's right, good. That's the point. Subscribe for more stories that don't give easy answers. Share this with someone who understands that love isn't always clean, that redemption isn't always clear, and that sometimes the people we save are the ones we needed most. See you in the next story that refuses to look away.